Dara Pollack. Welcome back to Seeing Other People.
Thank you. So happy to be here. I'm sorry. I'm flustered. There's so much stimulus right now with the dog and just everything. I'm so excited to be back. Thank you for having me.
You're doing great. Yeah. We've had a morning.
We have had a morning. We really have.
But I'm so excited to have you. Last I had you on was probably a year and change ago.
Oh my God, was it? Oh wait. Is it that long? That's crazy if it is.
It's been a while.
We've
seen each other since.
Oh, yeah. But I think you might be right. I think we came in either December or something.
So about a year ago.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay. Time is a flat circle. Yes, thank you.
For those who are listening to your voice for the first time, first of all, I'm so happy for them.
Oh, I'm not. My voice is terrible. But thank you.
Well, I need them to know that I'm a funnier person when I'm around you.
Oh my God, I love that.
I have a 100% success rate with that.
Oh my God,
far.
amazing.
So hopefully that sticks. But give the people the Dara 101, a little bit of background about you.
Okay, I will try to keep this brief because my background is like so scattered, I feel. But started out as a food blogger back in 2008. I'm old, everyone who is listening. And I kind of shifted over the years into just more of like a content creation space. It's mostly still in the food industry. I work with restaurants and food brands to help them create content, manage social media. But I was a food blogger primarily, first. So writing is always something that I've been very passionate about. Comedy is something I'm very passionate about. I dabbled in stand-up a little here and there. I was a dancer way back when. For those who do know me, I have a very long, sad story about how I got hit by a car when I was 17 and I almost lost my leg. And that is actually how I started my food blog, was just because I was laid up and couldn't do anything else with dancing, couldn't pursue that dream anymore. So I kind of found solace and a creative outlet in food and cooking. So that's how it all kind of started. And yeah, snowballed into a bunch of other things. And now here we are.
Which, for the record, until about a month ago, I didn't know that about you.
Wait, really?
I had no idea. And you posted something about it. And
yes.
I read what you wrote. And I always...
I love what's coming already.
No, you're one of maybe like 10 people where I'm very invested in your life. Yes. Like, we don't talk on a daily basis. We don't talk on a weekly basis, not even a monthly basis.
Right.
But I feel like I'm very in your life.
You told me that the other day when I told you about this book and asked you to read it, and you were like, I'm so invested in your life. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm so boring. So I don't know how that works for you.
Like, I don't think that you are.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I had no idea. And I read that and I hung on to every single word. And then after reading it, I was like, wow, I should say something. And I was like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And so that's where that is one of my fatal flaws, where like you and this other exclusive group of people whose lives I'm very invested in from a distance. Like, there's so much I want to say, but then it's like, oh, do I like come in hot with this whole like monologue about my thoughts and feelings? But then that's weird because they don't hear from me.
Not at all.
Anyway, just thank you for sharing your story in that way. Everybody should go check it out.
Thank you. Yeah, that was actually one of the pieces that kind of spurred my whole foray, if you will, into the food blogging space. Because when I wrote that piece many years ago, it kind of got picked up by like news outlets and stuff. ABC7 interviewed me about it. CBS interviewed me about it. And it like helped grow my following at the time when Instagram was good and you could actually grow your following. Don't know what that's like anymore. But yeah, so like that kind of is one of the pieces that inspired me to also start sharing more personal stories, if you will. Because a lot of people said that. They're like, I love this piece. It's like, you write the way you talk. So I feel like I can hear your voice when I'm reading it. And I'm like, that's what I do. So thank you.
Which writing more personal stories leads us to where we're at today.
Yes.
This is an episode, I already know it's going to be a phenomenal episode.
Aww.
And that anyone listening, like, there's so much stuff that everybody needs to hear. This is like Breakup 101 college course taught by professionals. It's like emergency, like smash this if you just got dumped. Like, we're going to talk about so much about going through a breakup, healing, being blindsided, all that. So you just came out with the ultimate No BS Breakup Survival Guide.
Yes.
Which I have read from start to finish, and it is phenomenal. And it is something that I wish I had when I went through breakups. And I do want everyone to read it. So we're not going to spoil it all, but we're going to talk about a lot of it.
Yay.
And where I want to begin is this came from a relationship that you were in that ended about 3 years ago.
Yes. Correct. Going on 4 actually, which is insane, but yes, correct.
Okay. Talk me through what was happening in this relationship. Who
Yeah.
were you in this relationship? Where did you think this relationship was going?
All that fun stuff. Yeah, so math is terrible for me. So I was 35, I think, when I met him. God help me. I'm 40. It's 2024.
Which is crazy. That you're not.
Thank you.
You're really not.
Skincare is important, you guys. Use sunscreen. Okay, I don't remember exactly how old I was when I met him. I'm going to go say 2019. So I was 34 when I met him.
Cool.
Math terrible.
We're going to call him Steve.
Oh, yes, that's right. Did I say his name?
No.
Okay. Phew. I was like, we always call him Steve. And we met on Hinge. Yeah, exactly. We met on Hinge. It was just very organic and like effortless and easy. Not to say that there weren't any issues, obviously, in the beginning, but like I cannot stress enough how much I thought that this was my person. Like things just flowed very naturally. He put in effort. I put in effort. Everything felt equal. When there was conflict, we seemed to handle it relatively well. Did not have a lot of fights to begin with. I thought I was going to marry this person. Like, I can't stress enough. Also, I had done so much work on myself by that point. Big fan of therapy, and I'd been in therapy for a while. I felt like when I met him, I was in such a good place in my life. Like, I felt complete, you know? And people are always like, you shouldn't look for somebody else to complete you. Yeah. You should love yourself. And I really felt like I was in a very good place when I met him, which is another reason why, even more so, I thought, like, this is it. This has to be it, you know? And we moved in together during the pandy, if you will, during the pandemic.
I've never heard anyone refer to it as the pandy.
Are you serious?
Wait, why do I think that is so funny?
Because it sounds insane.
Yeah.
And I am insane. I make up words all the time. So, yeah, we moved in together. Oh, so I will say we had been together for almost 2 years at that point, maybe like a year and change at that point. We had been together, but again, we're older, you know.
Yeah, this is a serious relationship.
Serious relationship. We, like I said, love each other. I thought respected each other, you know, how you do. And it was June of 2020. And I don't think any of us really at that point were convinced of like how long were really going to be in that. So he worked from home. I have been working for myself and working from home since 2017. So I'm used to this. He had an office job, corporate job. He hated working from home. So I will say that we lived together, though, I thought, very well. I mean, again, we barely fought, got along well, gave each other enough space. I have a pretty big 1-bedroom apartment in Williamsburg that we shared. You know, he moved into my place. And excuse me. And yeah, it was just like I thought everything was going well. And in January, right after New Year's Eve, we had just spent New Year's in Key West with some of my friends, and we got back. I thought the trip went well. Again, no like fights or anything during the trip. Everything I thought was great. And it was like a week after New Year's, he started having like, you know, what I can only describe as mental breakdowns, just like almost every day, crying and just saying things like, I don't deserve you. And, you know, just things that were clearly like, he was battling with something. And when somebody says that, that leads me to believe maybe they were like cheating or something. Right. You know?
Had he ever done anything like that before?
No. I mean, he had anxiety issues and I knew that. But when it came to us, not anything that was ever presented to me. Like when we did have fights, there was like one big fight we had. I remember it was like October of, you know, 2020. But like prior to this breakup, that was, I think, the last fight that we had was in October. You know what I mean? So it was like, and yeah, he is an anxious person, but it had never been about us. And I knew he started going to therapy, and I asked him straight up when he was starting therapy, I said, if there's stuff about me that like I should know, please tell me. And he was like, no, I'm not going to therapy because of you. Meanwhile, it was like 90% about me. So that he was just lying about to my face. So anyway, yeah, a couple days after New Year's, he was out with his friends. He was acting super normal and sweet and whatever. And he came home, went to sleep, woke up the next morning, and he woke up like really early, and I could hear him crying in the bathroom. And I was like, oh my God, how sad for him. He's really going through it. Something's going on. And then he comes back and he was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I have to leave you. I don't love you anymore. And I was just like, this is not real. And I was like,
God.
I mean, like your face right now, that's how I was. I was just like, I remember just like the blood draining from my face going into like my feet. And I just remember crying, and I just started saying over and over, please don't do this, please don't do this, please don't do this. And you can read this entire story on my blog, which, you know, has led to this book, but I write it out in more detail. But it was just like one of the most devastating things. And what was scary to me, though, and a lot of other people who have read the blog post agree, who have been in a similar situation, it was like the second he released that like statement, he just changed. He became someone I didn't even recognize. It was like he became dead behind the eyes, glassed, like glazed over, just like robotic, very like, I didn't want to hurt you. I never meant to hurt you. I'm so sorry. Like just everything was so robotic. That's the only way I could describe it. Like this was not the person that I was dating. And I was like, I had no words basically, but also plenty of them because I'm just that type. And, you know, I wrote this in the blog. I took like a photo of the two of us off the wall and I like threw it on the bed and I was like, think about what you're doing to us. This is our life. Think about it. And it was the right time to be dramatic. And he was just like, I begged him to go to his parents and I would go to my mom's. I was convinced that this person just needed some space, that he was just having a hard time with the pandemic and whatever and yada, yada. I was like, take some time, please. I will do the same, just whatever. And he was like, okay, I'll do that. So I thought, all right, a little bit of hope. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, I go home to my mom. I'm on the floor in a ball in like the fetal position with snot bubbles coming out of my nose, completely despondent. And yeah, and he, instead of going home to think about it and chill with his family, he got his mom and his brother and came back to our apartment and started moving his shit out without even telling me.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So when I found that out, it just like furthered my mental breakdown. And my dad actually called him. And me and my dad are not super close. Like I love my dad. He's great, but we're not as close as like me and my mom. Me and my mom talk every day. And my dad called him and was like, in his little Romanian accent, he was like, it sounds to me like you're having a nervous breakdown.
Oh my God.
You cannot do this to her. Dad! And yeah, I was like, oh my God, Dad, seriously? But at the same time, I was like, well, he ain't listening to me. Yeah. So, and my dad actually did convince him to like come back to the apartment the next day and like talk to me about it. Wow. And that was the only conversation we had. And, you know, in that moment, it was just a lot of like excuses. I mean, I'm not stupid. It was like, we don't have chemistry. We don't, you know, we're not compatible. I'm like, this is not real. We would not make it past date 3 if we weren't compatible or had chemistry, you know?
Right. And if that was the case, then why did he move into your apartment?
Exactly. Like all the things. And why did you also keep asking me out if you really did not like me? It's right. Like, you know what I mean? Like he put in the effort. This was not like a forced relationship. And so then at one point, the scuba diving thing, that was my favorite part. He told me that one of the reasons is because I don't like scuba diving, and I was like, is this a fucking joke right now? I was like, because I don't like scuba diving, because I don't like the ocean, and that's just clearly an excuse. But then at one point he just looked me dead in the eyes and he was like, I just think there's something better out there. And I was like, you can get the fuck out now. Wow. And that's literally what I said. I was like, you can fucking leave now. And after he left, I just crumbled slowly into like, you know, a ball and cried. And I just stayed at my mom's house for like 3 weeks and thus began the journey. And I kind of walk you through it in the book. Yeah.
Holy shit.
But that's what led to it. Yeah. Good times.
I mean, there are a few things worse in life than being completely blindsided like that.
Honestly, I would have never believed you until going through it.
Yeah.
100%.
And being told like what he first said, which was like, I just don't love you anymore. Yeah. Like, what does that even, okay, when did that happen? When did that change? Because, you know, last week you loved me.
Right.
Like yesterday you loved me.
Yeah.
Like it's so confusing. And we're humans. We like to understand. We like to be able to identify like what the reason is for certain things. And when you're left wondering and trying to make sense of something that you can't make sense of, you like spontaneously combust.
It makes you crazy.
It does.
I felt completely insane for months, and I'm not even exaggerating. Like I'm also just like an ADHD overthinker kind of. I like to say I'm secure with anxious rising. Like that's how I describe my attachment style. So I definitely have anxieties of my own, but I spiral. So for me, this was like the worst fucking thing you could do to me. And on top of it, like I said, I get very in my own head about things, and I really felt I felt crazy. I felt like I made up this entire relationship. I felt like it was all a lie. I had night terrors about this. I used to wake up in the middle of the night and think that he was standing in my doorway holding a knife because I thought he was a serial killer, because that's how much he changed in my eyes. You know what I mean? It was really bad.
That's a crazy concept too. Like whether it's like right after they said like right after Steve said I don't love you anymore, or somebody who you're texting to coordinate exchanging each other's stuff, it's like you don't recognize the person anymore. Exactly. They don't sound the same, they don't behave the same, and it's like who are you literally, and what happened to the person I just spent these months, these years with, who I loved, who loved me? How does that just go away like that? It's so confusing and it's scary. And very then scary. You question like, well, I let this happen to me. Are my instincts all off? How do I trust myself? And that's what leads you to feel crazy.
Yes, exactly. I felt like that's what I was saying is I've definitely had trouble with relationships prior to him. It just obviously things had not worked out with many men, and my radar had always been pretty off in the men that I was picking. So that's why with him, I really thought that like everything felt good in my gut. Everyone's like, trust your gut. And like, I really did. And there was no like glaring red flags that I was just ignoring. Like, I mean, we're here now almost 4 years later, right? I still look back at that relationship, and I think I even say this in the book at the end, like, it was still one of my best relationships. It didn't work out in the end, but just because it's not visibly flawed on top doesn't mean there aren't cracks in the foundation. Like, it must have been something wrong, more obviously with him than me. But I mean, there were no, really glaring red flags that would have led me to believe that would have ever happened with this person.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Where did you begin with your healing process?
That's a tough one because I feel like it, because I want to say it started like soon after, but it really didn't because I was still so caught up in it, like mentally. But I think it really did happen a few months after, maybe in like March. It was like January when it happened. So I think like a couple months after.
Which I want to say, that's okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Sometimes we feel pressure to like, okay, this horrible thing happened, this traumatic thing. Like I just got my heart broken. I have to start healing tomorrow because that's what social media is telling me to do. That's what everyone's saying. The toxic positivity of the world is saying like, heal now, be better, become your best self. Like you're allowed to just lay and cry.
You're allowed
to feel
your
like
feelings.
Shit.
Yes. And you're going to. Like that was the thing. I think I just let myself feel it. Maybe I let myself feel it for too long, but I'll be honest with you, I couldn't not. It was so horrible. Like I said, if you've never been through it, you're a lucky person. It's the worst feeling. I likened it to a death. I was grieving so hard, and it was awful. I would never, ever want to live through that again. However, when people ask me, would you do it all over again? Like in terms of a relationship like that, I would. I don't fucking regret it. Excuse my language. But
would you do it all over again in terms of what you learned from the breakup?
I mean, yes, I think so. I mean, the things I learned from the breakup are... Yes, I definitely still would. Like, I'm not afraid to get into a relationship, but I'm definitely cautious, and I am still single, for those who are wondering. Trying to find the right person.
Are the DMs open?
The DMs are kind of open.
Kind of open.
I'll be honest, I haven't had a lot of success with dating guys from Instagram, though, so, like, you can shoot your shot, but...
TBD.
Just saying. Yeah, exactly. So, there's that. But I will say that, I definitely have taken a lot of lessons from this, but it really there wasn't a lot I would do differently if I had to do it all over again. Because I don't really think I did, and I'm not saying I didn't do anything wrong, but like, I don't think there was like, again, glaring red flags that I just ignored.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the book, you give a lot of tips on how to go through a breakup.
Yep.
Where should somebody begin with, reclaiming their life?
I think just honestly in like the first chapter, I think I talk about like the sleeping and waking up thing, because I think that's really the most important. It's one of the hardest things, especially if you lived with the person. Like sleeping is such a, like you're spooning. It's so nice to have somebody there, but like that was such a hard one for me. I mean, I literally am not joking when I say I would wake up and open my eyes. The second they opened, tears would come out. It was like I couldn't even be awake for 5 seconds without thinking about this and crying about it. So I was like, I need to do something to shake this up because it doesn't feel good this way.
Yeah.
And my solution was to start sleeping on his side of the bed. And I think that made a difference. And my friend also had a breakup shortly after mine, and she did it too. And she said it was a huge help. And I was like, there you go. So
why do you think that is?
I think because it kind of like just changes your surroundings a little, even though it's just moving to the other side of the bed. Like, try it. Like, you'll see the room feels different. It looks different when you open your eyes. It's such a weird thing, small psychological trick, but honestly, it kind of works. So
I will say I've done it whenever, like, tonight, Jake's not sleeping home. He's going home to his parents' house, and he does that usually like once a week for work. And I usually end up sleeping on his side of the bed.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so yeah, that's. Wait, why?
I don't know.
That's funny.
I don't sleep as well when he's not here. So
Then,
that's
okay.
what I do to like compensate for that.
Yeah.
But another thing that you can think of, which I did after breakups, was realize like, okay, I get to sprawl.
Yes.
This is my bed. Nobody else is coming in here. I'm going to do what I couldn't do before. Like, literally starfish yourself.
That's what I put in there too. I was like, if you could sleep that way, God bless.
Yeah.
I cannot sleep that way. I've tried. It just does not work for me. I have too many back and neck problems, so I need to like cuddle a body pillow and stuff. But yeah, exactly. It's like reclaim your space. Just do something different with your morning routine. Like, that's what I walk you through in the book is like, this was my morning routine when I was living with Steve, but now this is my morning routine, and now I love my morning routine.
Your morning routine sounds awesome.
It's kind of great.
What to watch after a breakup?
Oh my God, this is one of my favorite chapters. I'm so glad you brought this up. I mean, should I give it away? I can. I don't really think it's a big deal. If you want me to, I can. Because my sleeper hit, I really do think is a great recommendation.
It's up to you.
Oh, well, there's that. Actually, I wasn't even thinking of that.
It's up to you.
Okay. I'm going to save it, I think.
Save that.
But I'm going to give the sleeper hit.
Yeah.
Let's just let it out. So the sleeper hit for what to watch in a post-breakup world, Grey's Anatomy. The first, like, 2 seasons, maybe it's even 3. That show is so miserable. Everyone is so depressed and hates their lives, and everyone in it, and people are dying in the most insane ways. It'll just make you happy to be alive and, like, you know, standing on 2 feet. So, yeah, a huge help. And that was another one I recommended to a few friends, and they were like, loved it.
Agree. Even if you've watched it before.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
It's even more emotional watching it again because you know the terrible things that are going to happen.
Exactly.
And you'll see like one character who comes in with one issue and you're like, oh no, I know she's going to die, but she's so wonderful.
Yep, you get attached.
I will say there is something about watching like dark shows, movies. My worst breakup that I went through, Breaking Bad.
Interesting. I tried Breaking Bad, but it was a little too violent for me. I'm kind of
it's what I needed.
Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
like I need violence that isn't in my mind right now. Like I need the most depressing, dark, like out of my world show. I don't think I would like Breaking Bad if I watched it now, but I was in like not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to turn on my lights, just like curling up into a ball, being a shell of myself. And Breaking Bad just like helped me get through it.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. That's how I felt with Grey's. I was just like, I want to be surrounded by my people, and they're there in the little box in my,
surrounded by the misery.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. I want to talk about therapy when going through a breakup. I know in the book you talk about your therapy experience specifically with the breakup, and I know for me, I also like the first time I know you said you've been in therapy for various points of your life.
Yep.
The first time I went to therapy was when I was going through a breakup. And it was something that I probably knew I needed long before I like finally did it.
I think that's a lot of people. To be fair, yeah.
I wish I had started sooner, but it was such a game changer for me. So I'd love to hear your experience.
Yeah. So with me in this specific breakup at the time, I was, I work with, like I said, hospitality, and we're coming out of the pandy, and I was not making a lot of money. So I couldn't even really afford like traditional therapy of like, $150 a session or $200, whatever it is. So,
and you worked for yourself, so you probably didn't have like
exactly. I
benefits.
Have garbage insurance.
Yeah.
Everything is like, even I go to doctors
who
take my insurance, and they're like, this is still $3,000. And I'm like, I'll just go fuck myself. So Anyway, yeah, so I was using Talkspace, which is like the messaging. I think maybe now like BetterHelp is probably the one that people recommend more, I guess. But at the time, I don't even know if that existed. But I was using Talkspace, and it was like you can do video calls and stuff with the therapist, but I did audio messages, which like I love a voice note on like the iPhone. So it was just like so helpful to be able to like just kind of brain dump things onto my therapist, and then she would get back to me when she could, obviously, but she was very responsive. I think she responded, always within 24 hours. And the thing that was helpful, especially for somebody like me with ADHD, is it gave me the opportunity to really let what she was saying actually sink in, because I'm an interrupter, and it's something I'm working on all the time. Like even when you're talking, I find myself being like, and I'm like, shut up, Dara, stop it. So it was actually really helpful to just sit there and like even rewind it and take notes. And, so that was how I got through this, was through the voice messaging on Talkspace. Yeah.
Why do you think people should talk to a therapist rather than just talking to their friends when they're going through something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, to me, it's like obvious, but like, look, your friends love you, and we know that, and we know they have your best interests at heart, but a lot of times they don't have the experience of dealing with, loss and trauma and grief the way that a professional does. And also they don't give you that perspective that you may not really want to hear but need to hear. That's what I've always found to be true. I mean, I'm lucky that I have a lot of friends who are pretty straight with me, because I'm that type of person myself. But even still, the therapist is always going to give you a perspective that your friends are not. Like, I'm sorry, it's just a fact of what it is. And I do think that it's much more helpful. And they keep you also like, I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say on the straight and narrow, but like
They hold you accountable.
They hold you, exactly. That's what I was looking for. So I think it's very important that you do, if you can afford it. There's a lot of options now, thankfully. So
yeah. Absolutely. And, sometimes your friends, they unfortunately might get sick of talking to you about it. That happens often, and they might, become a little restless and then kind of brush it off or say something that in the moment isn't the nicest. And then that can make you not want to talk to them anymore about it. Like, it just can get complicated. Yeah. Even if they have your best interests at heart. But I've been on both sides of this. I've been the friend who can't stop talking about the breakup, can't stop talking about the situationship. And I've seen my friends like, their faces just go blank. Like, I know they don't want to talk to me or hang out with me because it's going to come up, but I kept beating the dead horse.
Help it.
Yeah. And I've also been on the other side where I've had friends and I'm like, oh boy, like Amanda's going to talk about Alex again. And like, we can't just tell her the same thing over and over and over, but she's never going to listen. So like, what do we do? And it really is helpful to have that third party, like 100%. Unbiased person. And they've seen so many people go through this, and they are professionals.
Exactly. They have so much more breadth of experience and stories and things to pull from that can help you. And the thing you just said is so true that I also forgot about, is like, I was talking to anybody with ears, some without, about this. Like, it was just like anyone who would listen. And I knew my friends were also getting sick of it, but my therapist doesn't get sick of it. You know why? Because I pay her. So deal with it. Like, that's just how it goes. Completely agree.
Exactly. And like, I do breakup coaching, but I'm not a therapist. And so I make sure that the people that I'm coaching are also in therapy.
Yes, 100%.
And it's important. It's important to have both.
Yep.
Okay. What should somebody eat when going through a breakup? Because oftentimes we don't want to eat.
Yeah, so this is another fun one. So everybody is different in this regard, and I talk about this in the book, obviously, but I am the type that when I'm like depressed and anxious, I cannot eat. Like, my revenge bod was, let me just tell you, not that I'm like proud of that, but kind of. Basically, when I'm anxious and anxious and depressed, food is like sandpaper to me. Like, I can't chew. Like, the act of chewing is actually just like too much energy for me. So for me personally, I need things that are like soft, kind of mushy, things like soup and like soup and a grilled cheese or oatmeal, the things that I really can just throw down my gullet and not have to worry about. Like that's kind of what I lean towards. When I'm stressed out or whatever, I tend to eat more. Like I tend to binge eat. It's like a weird thing. But
no, that's a lot of people.
Yeah. But then there's also a lot of people who are, when they're depressed, they eat more. So it's like it really depends on your mood. But in my book specifically, I talk about like more depression era foods where you're really low energy, but you still want to like feed yourself something decent. So I have a couple recipes in there, but like overnight oats was a big lifesaver for me because it's just easy to throw together. It does not take a lot of work. You don't got to chew. Things like that. Honestly, that's what I would suggest.
I do remember like a friend going through a breakup when we were like a year out of college and she was not eating anything. And I was like, we're going to the diner. We're going to order a smoothie and a tuna melt. And I just want you to try having a bite and a sip. That's it. I'll share it with you. That's it. And kind of, it was like forcing her in a way, but also forcing her to get out of the house. And she ended up like being hungry and eating like half of it. And she was like, thank you. Like I needed this. And sometimes like as a friend, if you know that your friend like might not be eating, like maybe like bringing over a pizza isn't the best thing, but getting them out of the house can be good. And I also think it's really important to try and eat things that are going to make you feel good.
Yes, exactly. Like it's really not the time. I know we all joke about it and I will definitely give in to those indulgences once in a while, but it's not really the time to be eating a ton of junk.
Yeah.
And like I built my brand, The Skinny Pig is the name of my blog. I built it on being like, I eat like crap and managed to stay thin. That was like my whole thing for, years, but now I'm old and I can't do that anymore. So portion control is key. But yeah, I think putting like good foods actually in your body. I mean, look, when you eat good, look good, feel good, it all kind of ties together, So yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, there are so many things I want to talk about, but I'm battling with like saving some for the book. So I'm gonna skip ahead over some of the good stuff that I want people to kind of go through on their own. And I want to talk about closure.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on closure?
So, yeah. And if you're referring to the chapter that you're probably referring to, which is like the whole ghosting closure chapter, that one is controversial. And I know a lot of like relationship podcasters and dating coaches are going to hate that chapter. So I'm aware of that and I'm ready for it. Here's the thing.
Well, I'm both of those things.
Yeah.
So continue. Let's see.
I'm both of those things. I believe that closure is real to an extent. I think that like, you mostly do give it to yourself. That whole spiel I do think is accurate. However, I do think that there are closure conversations that can happen that can help you, but you have to be in the right frame of mind to receive it. And I talk about this in the book because to me, I was so desperate to have that closure conversation, immediately, but I was way too emotional, way too upset. There was no way Steve could have said anything in that moment that I would have processed and taken in and been like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Other than I want you back. This was a mistake.
Exactly. Exactly. It just wouldn't have mattered. So like if you're not in the right frame of mind, it's not going to sink in. And in order to get in the right frame of mind, unfortunately, no contact and distance are the only ways that you're going to get there. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I'm not saying it's bullshit. Like closure, I think is real, but most of the time you're giving it to yourself. And if they do give it to you, wait a little bit. That's what I would say.
So did you get closure from Steve?
A little bit, but I'll be honest, most of it came from me. Like the people who told me that in the beginning that I was furious with for telling me that, I was like, you're wrong. They were mostly right. But I mean, there were things that he told me that I was surprised by. And it was an eye-opening conversation, to say the least. So I'm not going to say that conversation was not worth my time, because it was.
When in the breakup did this conversation happen?
A year later. A year and change, actually.
Drops
it was
mic.
like, yeah, it was literally February of 2022. Yeah, crazy. But didn't speak a word. I think in March of 2021, so the breakup was January 2021. We spoke like a couple more times, like logistical things. No emotion. It was like this is like, apartment stuff basically. And I think the last time I had spoken to him was literally March. And then I reached out in December of 2021, right around the holidays, and he responded like right away. I was shocked, but Yeah, not a word. I mean, it was radio silence.
Did that make you mad?
Mad is not the word. It is weird because I will say that no contact is really what you need to do in order to like get over it. But it is upsetting and it can be very like, it feels hurtful because to me, I was just like really not like one drunk text, nothing. I felt completely erased by this person. And I think that was one of the most hurtful things that I felt from it. But looking back, hindsight being what it is, I do think it was actually probably the kinder thing, to do, or the kindest thing he could have done, considering what I felt was everything else was cruel, but very necessary. Yeah.
I know in the book you mentioned that like Christmas time was a really special time to you.
Yeah.
And then this breakup happened around the holidays, right after New Year's.
Yep.
I want to hear what it was like for you to kind of like take that back, because especially after any breakup, it's like anywhere you go, the grocery store, the coffee shop, the restaurant, the neighborhood, the holiday, the terminal at the airport that you flew out of the first time together. Like, it's so hard to relive these moments, go back to these places. And the holidays are such like a sacred time of the year for so many people. What was that like for you? And like, what has that been like year after year, like going through that period and finding ways to still enjoy it, and also just like reclaiming the world around you?
Yeah. Everything is like a landmine when you're going through a breakup. It's so true. It's like everything's a trigger, especially if you live together. The whole neighborhood is a damn trigger, But
your home, your apartment, he moved into your place.
He lived in my apartment. Yeah, exactly. It was just like everywhere. I will say for me, it took, that first year was bad. Christmas for me that year it wasn't terrible. I'll say that, because it had been, almost a year by that point. And I wrote that blog post about the breakup about 10 months after the breakup. So I had processed a lot. I felt a lot better. I felt like me again. But yeah, there were a couple things that really did still trigger me. Like, I think in the book I talk about the Christmas lights, and which I still have up, by the way. Didn't take them down. Worked through that, but it was a little bit of like facing the triggers eventually and just kind of throwing myself back into it helped a lot, but like not right away. Like, too soon is just going to be too hard. I avoided everything, like, the plague, like the pharmacy that he and I would go to. I was like, I'm going to a different pharmacy. Like, that's just, I avoided everything. But then eventually I was like, I can't let this be my life. I can't let him take this stuff away from me. You know what I mean? It felt very unfair to me that like, he got to just pick up and like leave, and I had to sit in the shrapnel of the relationship, and I hated that. So I was like, I need to reclaim this for me. And the only way that you can really do that is just by kind of getting back into it. So like that first Christmas was kind of sucky, but it was not like I was having breakdowns or anything. I was still hanging out with my friends. We did our, Christmas traditions that we do at home in Queens. Like, I don't even think I cried. Like, and I texted him, about the closure conversation. And I didn't even cry. I wasn't nervous. I actually remember I took a nap right after. Like, I wasn't anxious waiting by the phone. And I thought that was a big deal. You know what I mean? It said something to me. So it was like reclaiming my love of Christmas. It was just doing the things that I used to do, but just like one at a time, like baby steps, I would say. That was, unfortunately, I don't have really any big breakthroughs on that one.
No, but I think you said exactly it. Like, you don't have to dive in head first, but like one at a time. And it's okay for a little while to avoid certain places if you know it's going to upset you.
Exactly.
Like, that's okay. You can also try new places, like create new memories with yourself, with new people. Like, just, maybe you live on the border of two neighborhoods and you've like really spent time in one. Go spend time in the other. Like, don't hold yourself back from living your life. Maybe you'll live your life in a slightly different way, but also those places were your places before they were your us places.
And also, it's like, maybe you might like it even better. It's like, that's what I was telling myself about the whole morning routine thing, is like
Barkley is having a field day
Barkley
in the corner
is making
with the pillows.
A nest behind me. He's like a cat dog. This is something a cat would do.
It's crazy. He perches on top of the couch like,
I love
cat.
that.
Hi, what's up, little bud? Do you have anything to say? No, they didn't have a dog together. They didn't have to divide you. Don't worry, bud.
We had a cat. His name was Bobo. Well, he was my cat, actually. But anyway, what were we just saying? Oh, yeah. And that's what I was going to say, is like, these things that you think you lost may not even be that big of a deal, because you might actually end up liking the thing that you're doing now better. It's like, I thought I loved my morning routine with Steve. I thought it was so great. And now I'm like, no, my routine.
You were tiptoeing around the apartment.
I was tiptoeing to not wake his ass up. And now I'm like, I can just live for me. That's pretty dope. You know what I mean? Like, I like the things that I do now better. So it's like, a lot of times we think, oh, it's just like a death of a, and it is a death of a certain life, but it's also the beginning of what could be a really great new one.
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Going back to no contact real quick. Does no contact include social media?
Yes. For me, it absolutely does.
Why?
So he blocked me everywhere. And like I said,
which is the greatest gift anybody can give.
I agree. I completely agree, but no one will really agree with that, especially if you're in the moment.
In the moment, it's
insane.
Like, how dare they?
Yeah.
Are they kidding me? It happened to me, though, and it was the nicest thing that this guy could have done.
Absolutely. Because truly, there is nothing you're going to see that is going to make you feel better. There's going to be something eventually that pisses you off, and that is exactly what happened to me. So I'll give the brief version of this story, but the full version is in the book, obviously. So as I said, I run social media for other people, restaurants, brands, whatever. And at the time, I had like 2 other accounts, and he didn't block those. So stupid rookie doofus move. And I just logged into one of my other accounts, and I was like, let me see if I don't think he did. Let me see if he blocked me there. Because I actually didn't think to check. I thought he would have been smart enough to know, but he didn't. And so I went to look, and just like, he refollowed that one girl. You know what I mean? There's that one. And I was like, this bitch. And I lost my mind internally, obviously. I did the thing where I was writing the letter. I was writing the text. My notes app was open. I was going ham. And I was like, realistically, he is single now. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. I can't really be mad about this. And I just eventually let it go. And that was the end of that. I was like, you are never looking at his social media again. And to this day, I have not looked at his social media.
High five.
Amen. Just saying.
That is strength. That is perseverance.
Why? It's like, why be a masochist? I'm already a Mets fan. I can't do this to myself. You know, like, I'm just like, why hurt yourself? You know it's going to upset you. You know. And I tell that to all my friends who go through it, but a lot of them are just like, I'm not ready to detach. I'm not ready to cut the cord. And I'm like, I totally get it. But believe me, your mental health and your sanity will thank you the sooner you do that.
Well, it's also, people will come up with the excuse of like, oh, well, that's so petty. Like, I don't want to unfollow them.
No.
Like, I don't want to unfollow their family and friends. Like, their mom was so nice to me. We
I
loved
blocked
each other.
everybody.
Like, it doesn't matter. They did what they needed to do for them, which was end the relationship. And now you have to do what you need to do for you.
Yes. Their peace came at the expense of my sanity. And I was like, I'm going to do the same and protect my peace and my sanity. I blocked every fucking person that knew him.
As you should.
On my Instagram. Now I released that block. And what's actually hilarious to me is that there are like 2 or 3 girls in his group, like the friends of or like the girlfriends of the friends or whatever. They look at my stories every single day, and they don't follow me. I'm like, just follow me back at this point. I'd love to have you. I can see you.
Still trying to grow.
Just like, come back. I'd love to have the extra follow.
Yeah.
We're good now. It's been almost 4 years. It's so funny. I'm like, you have to literally search my name every day to look at my stories. Just follow me, guys. It's really, it's okay.
Funny. Yeah. You got to do what works for you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how much you liked their sister-in-law, how much you liked their cousin, how much their best friend liked you. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And believe me also, they will understand. If it was especially a devastating breakup like the one I had, believe me, they will get it. Like, there's no shot that they're going to be offended.
They're not going to be sitting there thinking like, oh my God,
yeah,
like she hates me. Like she's so like pissed off. They're going to be like, oh no, like she's trying to take her space
100%
and just doesn't want to be seeing any aspect of that person's life.
Yeah.
And that's understandable.
And also, who
cares?
gives a fuck what they think?
It doesn't matter.
Literally, who gives a fuck?
It doesn't matter.
No.
You had a lot of really great anecdotes about like rewiring your brain and reframing certain things that like we say to ourselves when going through a breakup. And I just want to call a few of them out because I mean, I literally screenshotted 2 pages.
Oh my God, yay.
They're so good. And I just want people to hear some of them.
Yeah.
And jump in if any of them, like if you want to elaborate. But reframe how did this happen to me to how can I move forward?
Yeah. That thought plagued me for months, and it was also the same thoughts that plagued me when I got hit by the car when I was 17, because that especially also is just so like, what did I do to deserve this shit? Like, what did I do at the age of 17 in my life to deserve this? You know what I mean? And I was plagued by that thought for years, honestly. And this was becoming a similar situation where I could not wrap my head around it. So reframe that shit as fast as you can.
As someone who's had something that traumatic happen to you at such a young age, how do you feel about the phrase everything happens for a reason?
Like, the thing is, I do believe it. I don't think it's a good enough excuse that's going to actually make you feel better. Like, I'll say that. I do think it's true to some extent, but at the same time, you have to make it true. Like, does that make sense? Because you could have something like what happened to me happen at a young age, and you could walk around with a chip on your shoulder the rest of your life and be an asshole. And I decided I'm not going to do that, because I was being that person for a bit. I was miserable for understandably. And I was a kid. I did not know how to process my emotions, my feelings. I was a dick to a lot of people, and I admit that, and I own that now. But you have to do the work in order to see the, like, everything happens for a reason silver lining. You know what I mean? So I do believe that it led me to my career now, because if that didn't happen, I would have pursued dance. I would have hopefully maybe ended up on Broadway like I wanted. But also, who knows where that would have led? I'm 40 now. My career would probably be over. So, like, you know, I mean, you never know.
Your life would be entirely different.
Entirely different. And, like, you can't look back and, like, regret. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. There was nothing you could have done differently to keep this person.
1,000,000,000%. Because, like I said, I'm not saying I was perfect. I'm far from it. I have my issues and my insecurities. But, like, I truly believe that I was as open and honest and loving and respectful as I could have been in that relationship. And it did not matter. Yeah. He felt a certain way. I don't fully understand why to this day, because even when he tried to explain it, it was mostly just like I just wasn't happy. And I was like, why? And he's like, I don't know. Exactly. It's just whatever it was didn't fit. But there was nothing that you could have done. So I know it sucks to hear, because I did not believe it either. But it really, really has nothing to do with you and everything to do with how they handle emotions, or in this case, cannot handle their emotions.
And it sucks because you can spend days, weeks, months, years thinking, well, what if I had done that differently? What if I had not said this? What if I had spoken up about that, or asked this question, or not spoken up about that thing? But you were true to who you were in that relationship.
Exactly.
That is what led the relationship to end. And if the relationship was not meant to work out between the two of you, then it wasn't going to work out.
Exactly.
And you don't want to be doing things differently or behaving like a different person or hiding your feelings to keep this person. That's not a real relationship.
And that was the other thing, is like, I did not want this person back. After this happened, I was so like, I cannot convince someone of my worth. I won't do that. Yeah. And if somebody thinks that this is okay to do to me and is okay with doing this is not somebody that I want to be with. Like, people used to ask me, like, if he came back and said, you know, what would you take him back? And I said he would have to use a variety of terms like mental breakdown, aliens, like some ridiculous reason for why he did this. Otherwise, I was like, absolutely fucking not.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And one last one, since we started talking about how you were blindsided. Being dumped by someone in this fashion is a gift. They're doing you a damn favor. I know you can't see that now, but taken from me, it's very real. What is that favor, you know, in hindsight, about being blindsided and being broken up with the way you were?
Yeah, this one took a long time for me to come to this realization, hence the book in general. But it's truly that, like, you can get through anything. Like, I feel like this was one of the worst pains emotionally, mentally, whatever, that I've gone through. And I feel like if I can get through that, there's nothing anybody can do to me in a relationship or dating moving forward that is going to break me. Like, I just feel, I'm not saying I'm invincible, don't get me wrong, but like, this did make me stronger. It also made me so much more aware of like the things I want and the things I feel I deserve in dating and relationships. So it's helped me weed out people a lot easier when it comes to dating. But that is what I mean when I say it's a gift. It's like, you will be okay after this. And if you can be okay after this, you can be okay after pretty much anything.
What was harder? Getting hit by a car and almost losing your leg, or going through this breakup?
It's actually very similar in my mind, because in both cases I felt like I was grieving a life that I thought I had. You know what I mean? Like, I was grieving a loss of something that I really thought was like my trajectory, my path. I'll be honest with you though, I think the breakup might have been worse, because the physical aspect of the car accident was so much that, but it made sense to me. Does that make sense?
It does.
There
are doctors who can say, like, here's
Yes.
what's wrong and here's the path forward.
Correct.
Versus, like, a broken heart is invisible. Like, people can't
Yes.
see that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
it is, like, the most painful thing.
It's so painful, and
There's no
truly,
medicine.
There's no medicine, and truly, it becomes physical. If you're somebody like me, and I assume you are the same way, where you feel things so deeply that it can be physical. So not only was I in physical pain, I was in mental, emotional. Like, I truly feel like in a lot of ways, this was harder to get over. I will say the car accident had more long lasting, I think, like PTSD elements to it. But in terms of like the immediate and like that first year, I think the breakup was harder. Like, it was awful. Do not recommend.
Yeah. It just goes to show, like, sometimes we feel like, why is this hurting so much?
So
like,
much.
why can't we get over it? Like, breakups can be the most painful thing that you can go through. So give yourself grace. Like, be kind to yourself. If your friend is going through it, be patient with them.
Yes.
Like, it is so painful.
Yeah. And there's a point, like we were saying before, where you have to smack everybody out of it, yourself included. Because I knew I was teetering on that line of like, okay, it's been almost a year. Like, but I would say I started to feel more like myself after probably the 6 or 7 month mark. But I still was not fully, healed. So I would say it took a solid year for me, I think, to really feel better and feel like me, and actually feel like a new version of me, the one that I like better, if I'm being honest. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I didn't know the old version of you, but I love the new version of you.
It's kind of the same but different,
Same but different. What is the best piece of dating or relationship advice you've ever received or have to give today?
Yes, I knew this was coming, and yet I'm still unprepared. No, I'm kidding. I'm sort of prepared. So what's funny is the last time that I was on your pod, I think what I said was, don't be afraid to lose them, which I still stand by. But in the theme, or keeping the theme of this book, I'm going to say, don't lose yourself, because I wrapped so much of my identity in this person, and that was part of the reason it was so hard to get over. So do not lose yourself. Make sure that you keep your identity and you don't become a we couple where everything you do is we. Just keep some shit for yourself and prioritize your own happiness too.
100%.
Yeah.
Even if a me thing is just Grey's Anatomy.
100%. Exactly.
Have your
reality
shows.
TV or something, garbage TV, whatever you want to do. Let it be your own thing.
I love it. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming back. Where can everybody find the ultimate No BS Breakup Survival Guide?
Yes. So thank you for having me again. And this is where things get a little convoluted. So I'm having like a midlife crisis with my Instagram. So a lot of my content, if people go to my Instagram, which is at Dara Pollack, my name, you won't really see a ton about it. I'm working on it because I know I have to promote this, but like it will be on my Instagram, but you can go to my blog, theskinnypignyc.com, and it's literally right at the top of the homepage. It says the last breakup guide you'll ever buy or something. If you click that link, it'll take you to the landing page. You could buy it there. It's $5.99, which is less than like a coffee these days in New York.
Literally less than a coffee.
Yeah.
Less than the best happy hour deal you can find.
Literally.
Half the price of a cocktail.
Exactly. Probably a third
of the price of a cocktail. Yeah, it depends where you're going.
Depends where you are. But
like half the price of a diner cocktail, a third the price of a cocktail bar cocktail.
There you go. Perfect math. But yeah, that's where you can find it. So theskinnypignyc.com. You can also read the original blog post there. I mean, I linked to it in the book if you hadn't read it, but it kind of like funnels down from there. Read the blog, then you could read the follow-up blog about the conversation, then you can buy the book, and you're
get
all
it for
set.
a friend. Buy it for a friend.
Oh yes, I highly recommend buying it for a friend. It's not insulting, it's helpful.
Agreed. I love it. Thank you so much. And next year.
Yes.
Round 3. Three-peat.
Amazing. Can't
Love
wait.
it.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.